Well, hello. This is interesting. Penn State football had a rain delay at halftime. If you're here watching the show, you know that already. But just to set the scene for everybody, we don't normally do a live halftime show, but we've got some time to kill, and you don't want to watch Maryland UConn? How dare you not want to watch Maryland UConn when I saw like 20 minutes ago when I was getting ready for the show, they were up by 30 at halftime. We're talking about Penn State football. We're talking about the halftime, what happened in the first half, and how the Nittany Lions can adjust at halftime or how they can not adjust at halftime. Generally, I'm here to talk to you about what we saw during the first half from the Nittany Lions, which I thought was very encouraging, offense and defense. We'll get into some of the minutia because we've got the time. But as always, if you're watching here on the show, please like the video, subscribe to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. We're a little bit late because I was doing some halftime analysis. I wanted to know what I was talking about when I was coming here on the show, because even after the game, here's what I normally do during halftime. I'm watching the entire first half back so I can see what was going on, try to get a handle on some of the things I missed, some of the scheme stuff, because that's where I'm focusing on what are they trying to do and is it successful. So I was trying to button all of that up to give you this information here at halftime so that we know what to expect when everyone comes out of the locker room, what the coaches are talking about, what they're trying to make those adjustments for in this extended period of time. And right off the bat, just off the top, West Virginia's in a bad situation. Offensively, they're not running the ball well. Their average yards per carry, 2.8 yards per carry. Penn State's defensive line is controlling the line of scrimmage, and some missed tackles are really the problem. Tony Rojas, Dom DeLuca, a shaky start for the game so far. I think even Kobe King's been a little bit slow, and that's part of the eye candy from this West Virginia offense. But they've buttoned it up to 26 carries for 74 yards is not a winning formula for West Virginia, especially with Jaheim White out of this game. He was averaging 6.5 yards per carry. It's not really going well on the ground. And then you look at in the passing game, Penn State is playing a lot of man coverage. So that's the end of the story. Penn State's better athletes are dominating in the secondary. A.J. Harris is playing really well. Jalen Kimber, I think he gave up an early completion in soft coverage. He's in a cover 3 blitz situation. Didn't get a lot of help from Dom DeLuca in underneath coverage, but he's also got to understand, I think he's got to be a little more reactionary there, but I also get, like, if you're in a zone coverage, your primary job is to not get beat deep. I'm already getting into the play level analysis. I was trying to give you the high level thing. So Penn State's playing, they're not doing as much Tom Allen stuff. They're not playing a lot of crazy coverages. They're doing some basic rolling into and out of which safety is in the box and who's attacking the line of scrimmage. And it's working. They don't have to do a whole lot in this game. So they're playing some very basic, normal coverages, and they're just dominating individual reps. And then in zone, Garrett Green is having a hard time, as we talked about coming into this game over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. He's having a hard time coming off his first read and getting to a second progression. There's a couple of plays where he had a guy open if he's able to get to the backside, but there's some pressure. He flushes out of the pocket. So really what it is Penn State's defense is playing like Penn State's defense. And I was one of the reasons I was late here is I was trying to figure out how in the world they have so many plays. That I always like to go through the drives and the drive lengths, and they've got, 13-play drive, a 13-play drive, and a 10-play drive. And it comes out a lot down to these fourth down conversions, some inopportune calls for Penn State where you're calling a blitz into a screen and you're taking a guy out of coverage who could have made the play. And then some bad tackling we talked about earlier. So that's really kind of the story for West Virginia is they're eking through this first half, getting some plays, putting them together to get into field goal territory. They've had an opportunity for 3 field goals. They've gotten 2 of them. So optimistically, this could be a 20-9 game. And then for the Penn State offense, I think they just got out of their own way. And people have asked me all offseason, what is Andy Kotelnicki's offense going to look like? What is Andy Kotelnicki's offense going to look like? Well, this is what it looks like. Easier throws for the quarterback. Opening up windows through play action and through moving guys around the formation to create these windows where Drew Aller doesn't have to throw a corner route over the head of a receiver to drop it into a bucket perfectly. He just has to put the ball right here. There's also a couple of those situations where some of these passes look worse than they are. The third down pass to Trey Wallace, I actually put that more on Trey Wallace, and here's why. Drew Aller threw to a spot. The spot is the first down marker, the sticks. The ball hit literally the sticks. Wallace has to push upfield and then come back to the football so that he can be there to catch the ball. Because if he targets the actual player in that situation, that's a pick six. It was almost a pick six anyway. There was a little bit of Wallace stumbled out of his break and didn't get back to the football. So some of these accuracy issues, Drew still came out hot. He still came out and was a little bit wobbly with his accuracy, but then he got on a rhythm because these passes are easier. They're layups instead of he's having to shoot from 4 feet behind the 3-point line. So that's kind of the situation. Penn State's hitting their explosive plays. I'm not in love with the run game right now and how things are operating, but I think from an individual play level, some of the things are going really well. Vega Ioane is having a great game. He is dominating up front. I've seen him with sometimes pancakes happen where they're just a guy trips over another guy and then you fall on top of him and suddenly you get a pancake. He is wrecking some dudes. And I saw in here just passing when I was talking, somebody says West Virginia has a good front seven or a good defensive line. I haven't heard their defense. I haven't heard a name on their defense once so far. So that tells me two things. They're doing a good job of protecting the tackles. So there are some of these deep passes. And from the defensive side, West Virginia doesn't have an answer here. Their plan is to drop 8 into coverage. I've seen it a bunch of times so far where they've been putting an extra defender into coverage, trying to make Drew Aller hold on to the football, and not find a guy that's open. Here's the problem with cover 8 or drop 8 is it's still just a base coverage. When you've got that many guys out there, they're going to run into each other if you don't just play a basic zone. And when you rush 3, a quarterback can sit there all day or just read the coverage and throw. So in one of the situations, it's drop 8, but it's just into the boundary. He has Trey Wallace versus Aubrey Burks, one-on-one. It's an easy completion for him. 0 pressure, slings it. Good coverage, by the way, from the defender, but a better throw. And there's a lot of good stuff going on. I got a lot of thoughts here. Surprisingly, they're just kind of rolling out of me as they always do to start the show. But I do want to get to you guys. And John says, T-Frank, did you iron on that Elite Series patch? That's dedication. This was swag from corporate. They came up this summer to say hello. And I'm the only person who wears a medium, apparently. So I got a bunch of extra stuff because I'm like, yeah, I can wear a medium. So then I got this sweet Elite On 3 series. Yes, I am the ultimate team player. I will be wearing this stuff if they give it to me. Plus, this is a really nice polo. Totally nobody cares about this, but this is also the polo I was wearing during camp when James Franklin had his yearly comment about my chest hair. As I said, the one problem is like this button doesn't always stay buttoned, but we're good right now. HF Transplant says, going to have a drink during the delay. Cheers to Fitz and Giggles and Greg stuck in the press box. Yeah, I got a text from Fitz. It was a photo of the storm, and you could see it rolling in. So that's why we're here, because there is an extreme weather delay right now, and I think that's a real thing. It kind of resets everything we just talked about. It gives West Virginia, you can't really practice, you can't change your plays, but it gives you extra time to review what you're doing and get guys on the same page of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. So a couple of the things that are going on, I want to get to your comments, but just that point, what they're doing at halftime is they're trying to figure out, okay, what isn't working? Neil Brown loves to run the ball into the boundary, into the short side of the field. So, the hashes, there's either super short or super long, where you're either on this side of the field or you're all the way on this side of the field. So when they are on the short side of the field, they like to run, especially outside zone, aggressively into the boundary and try to steal a gap and cut up field very quickly. They did it last year, especially with some of these pin and pull, different type of concept to get into, the Penn State secondary. It forces corners to be a part of the run fit too. That isn't working. So what are they trying to do on top of that? It's a lot of Garrett Green keeping them in the game right now. And quarterback run game, running on 3rd and 8 and trying to get 9 yards, converting a first down. So I think what they're going to try and do is play off of what they've done already and maybe look like they're running into the boundary and then come back the other way. Jumping back, oh my gosh. This is why I like to have a rundown with all my thoughts organized, because they're just coming out of me like bang, bang, bang. West Virginia's defense is in a problem because, as I was trying to say earlier before I got distracted by a different thought, was their zone coverages aren't working, so now they have to play man. And that's not their game whatsoever. They did not recruit these players or get them from the transfer portal to play man coverage, but their zones, Aller's picking those apart. He's finding the right place to go, or he's making a good decision. So then they start playing man coverage to try and lock this down, because that was the book on Penn State's receivers before, right? Well, Penn State has an honest-to-God wide receiver 1 now, and he has good chemistry with the quarterback. I know I mentioned Trey Wallace didn't run a good route here or there, and I do think they've had a couple of miscommunications, but that back shoulder throw for the touchdown to end the half, that is quarterback-receiver chemistry at its finest. You have to have an understanding between those two players because it's risky. Aller's putting the ball right past the ear hole of the defender, so he has to trust that Wallace is going to make a play if he gives it to him, and he did. Same thing with Amari Evans. It would not be a Penn State football game if Amari Evans didn't make a big play while also pushing off. So Penn State got away with that one, but there's the chuck it up deep. But it's not just throwing it deep, guys. It's a calculated decision. I just mentioned they were having to play man coverage because on the previous play, they played just basic cover 3. But the way the formation was set up, Amari Evans was in the slot. It was a blitz, one of the few blitzes you get. I believe this one was a blitz from West Virginia. And they picked it up. I'm sorry, it was a 4-man rush. They picked it up. I remember because Anthony Donko put a dude in the dirt, and then Vega Ioane put another guy on top of him. They run, I think it was a bunch formation or a 3-by-1 set, and Amari Evans is in the middle. And all of that, what you need to know is that he had a safety. Penn State's fastest receiver against a safety. Aubrey Brooks is a good player, but that's not a great matchup. Drew underthrows the football, but he had the confidence in this ecosystem, with this offensive coordinator, with this particular iteration of the Penn State football team, to take a chance. And he was rewarded for it. So a good thing here from the Penn State team overall. Really strong. This is exactly what you wanted to see from Penn State out of the gate in the first game. I would even say Drew Aller's winning this game for them because, again, if we look at the rushing stats, 14 carries, 49 yards, Nick Singleton, I'm not really in love with the way that they're running the run game because it feels like it's too many thoughts at once. Everyone's getting on the field, and everyone's getting touches, and I think that's important. Beau Pribula has been a big part of it, but I don't know. That needs to get buttoned up a little bit in terms of what they want to do and how they want to do it. And so it's fallen to Aller, 8 of 13, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. You can't get a whole lot better than what he's done so far. Rob in the chat, he says, pay Andy Kotelnicki whatever he wants. Tony is playing really well. Safeties are special. Haven't even talked about the player of the game, Jalen Reed. He's been amazing. That's a really good point. Tony Rojas has been a bit up and down. He's been doing some things, got pulled out of coverage, tried to run around a block. Basically, he ran to the sideline trying to avoid contact and gave up an 11-yard run. He has been stonewalling, throwing himself into some of those looks and almost coming up with big plays or setting up other players. But he did throw a shoulder on Garrett Green on that 4th down run that would have been an elite play if he had just wrapped up and taken him to the sideline. But instead, he throws a shoulder, he gets rolled off, Garrett Green gets a 1st down. So he's playing like a second-year player. But the talent is all there. The decision-makings, the processes that he's going through, they're all there. And I think he's doing a good job so far. in this game. This is the BWI Live post-game show. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. If you want to get your thoughts here on the show, I'm trying to get to your comments. I promise you, but they're coming in hot and heavy. So if you want to donate to the channel, that's why we've gotten the ones that, because I can see those. I've mentioned before to people here doing this. If you donate to the channel, I get to see it. Even if you want to donate $1, it just helps me out because it comes up in big shiny letters, and I'm able to see what you're saying. See, Paul King brings up the thing that I think everyone is saying in the back of their head, Michigan State PTSD of those games where Penn State was the better team. Then you got a big old delay. I think that one, did they go in before halftime, come out for 2 minutes, and then like do a simulated halftime after that? I forget. That one was even crazier. The difference here is, and yes, it does level the playing field for everybody. So there is a reset from a momentum perspective. There's also a physiological situation that you need to keep these guys warm so their bodies don't go into rest and recover mode. They have to stay active. So Penn State's athleticism, their elite speed, their conditioning, all of those things, that's an advantage for them in this game. They've got to maintain that somehow throughout halftime. And again, being on the road, my buddy Landon Tangwall put it up on X before the game. The differences in the away locker room and the home locker room are a real thing. So if they're all sweaty and dehydrated and trying to find places to stretch and stay warm, it is a thing. But then you got to win anyway. And the good news is they have a 20-6 lead so far in the game. Artbreaker says, "I'm concerned about the big plays again." That you're not going to see another one because they're going to coast in the second half. Well, I even I can hear the sarcasm in that one. So appreciate everyone being here for this halftime show. Put your thoughts in the channel. I got to get to my guy Ryan, who's here somewhere. Oh my goodness, here we go. Ryan says it seems that they're trying hard to appease Pribula. He's not needed. Sit him and let Drew and the running backs do it. I would disagree that Bo has a function in this offense because otherwise Drew has to be the one running those option plays. He already has to do some of it anyway, but I think this is really the schism in the offense where maybe this is what I'm seeing with the run game is the standard run game is doing okay, and then they got these wrinkles with Pribula and with Aller, and there's two things here that I think are kind of frustrating. The first is, if you're going to have Pribula on the field, I think you take Aller off the field because if you're going to maximize your offense, you need all 11 players involved in the play. That's why Andy Kotelnicki is so good at scheming up these plays because he's using all 11 players. We saw Vega, you want to go in motion and have a crack block in motion. Drew is just, as a receiver, is doing nothing. Pribula, as a receiver, ran a route. So that's something we saw all the way back in spring, that was going to be a part of what they're going to do with Pribula and with Aller. But when you flip it around and Pribula's under center, Aller it's the same problem you have with the Wildcat. Yes, you get an extra hat in the run game, but the quarterback, the standard quarterback, is just kind of a vestigial organ on the play. So you are 10 on 11 at that point. So I do think Pribula has to run the offense, and they have to find a way to blend these two things together. But the good thing for Penn State is Andy Kotelnicki knows how to beat a Big 12 defense. And let me tell you, this is a Big 12 defense. This defense is struggling. And again, the front seven, Penn State's offensive line so far is holding up. That's what you get when you play cover 8. When you drop 8, that's what you get. And I shouldn't say cover 8. That's not a thing. It's a drop 8. People will know the difference, and I want to make sure I'm correct on that. Let's see. Drew editorial Killcoin. I don't know if that's supposed to be a play on Drew, Aller, or Shelton. I don't know. Congrats, team, in the weather delay pod. Need pass rush. I actually think the pass rush has been okay. I mean, if you're talking about from Penn State's perspective, I think it's been pretty good. There is no... Abdul Carter has not been Chop Robinson so far, but Dennis Sutton got a quarterback hit that forced a duck of a ball to fall out of Garrett Green's hands that went incomplete. Abdul Carter forced an incompletion because he beat Wyatt Milam, literally beat up Wyatt Milam. Drew, appreciate the donation, by the way. I always appreciate people who donate to the channel. Want to give you that shout out as well. The whole offseason, I've been saying, let's see what Abdul Carter does as a defensive end. Let's see what his skill set is before we anoint him the next thing. I think I'm ready to do that now. And I know, again, we had the whole shut up nerd conversation about Abdul all offseason, but on the rush I was just talking about, he used a nice inside rip move and got pressure. He used his hands properly. He had an inside counter for his speed against Wyatt Milam, who's a really good tackle. By the way, the rip move, he kind of just punched him right in the chest. So, like, it happens sometimes in football where I think more than anything, the tackle maybe just lost his breath because he got hit in the sternum, but it was a really good uppercut. Like, he hit the hand, he came up through, and he didn't get a sack, but he did get a pressure that forced the ball out of the quarterback's hands before anything was open. And nothing was open, by the way, because rolling all the way back to where we started, they can't get away from Penn State's secondary and Tony Rojas on that play. Joel Klatt is awesome. I came on here and I'm like, man, he's stealing all my material. He's talking about things. He's seeing it instantly on the replay. He does a great job. So a lot of these things you probably have seen already in reference to like Tony Rojas being 15 yards down the field against a 5'7" running back and doing a good job. So I think the pass rush is okay. I do agree that there aren't the dominant immediate wins, but I also think that this is just a decent offensive line with a really good left tackle, so that is a part of the conversation where you have a good-on-good matchup. It's been really fun. Again, go to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. I've been throwing some of my analysis in crayon, because I use the screen cap and then I just draw on it, and it's terrible. But you can get all of that information at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. If you didn't sign up already, you missed our 50% off sale, but I still have this deal for you because I'm all about getting you deals. Special offer, 2 months for just $1, code PSU1. That's our YouTube and podcast deal. I think this is going to be a YouTube-only show because I don't know how much value there is in it for the podcast audience afterwards, kind of like the tailgate show. But PSU1, 2 months for $1. Get in there, and you can see some of the stuff I've been pointing out, some of these things. That's another thing I was doing at halftime, or at the beginning of the halftime, before the rain delay, was I was trying to give everyone what they pay for at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com on the message board for the in-game thread, to give them some of my replay analysis, because I got my whole setup here in the command center. So check it out. I encourage you to check that out. But we'll do as best we can to tell you about it and just describe it here, because I already earlier today got yelled at by YouTube because some of the music from the bus got onto the YouTube channel and they don't like that. So I'm not throwing up any video here or any stills because I don't want them to yell at me twice in one day. Rob says, thoughts on the corner so far? I know West Virginia isn't scaring anyone, allowing for man, but overall and in general so far, I think AJ Harris is awesome. He has been, this team is going to hit you in the mouth. Oh my gosh. They are physical. They play angry. This is everything you want from a defense. That secondary is not kidding around. And I think AJ Harris is a steal. I don't know what Georgia was thinking that he couldn't play press man coverage, because he's playing press man coverage pretty well. And he's not slow. There were maybe some questions about, does he have elite speed when he came to Penn State? But again, like Trey Wallace, I'm putting him in the bucket of he's fast enough. And so I don't know what the situation. I literally totally ignorant about his reasons for leaving Georgia. But oh my goodness, that was a find. Seeing Cam Miller and Audavian Collins, I thought Audavian Collins was good on the play where he gave up a pass to Fox. It's just, it was a better throw and a better catch. He was draped all over the target. The ball was just beyond his fingertips, and it was a really good contested catch. So Penn State is smothering in man coverage, and I think that outside of maybe the very first play where there's some miscommunication, there's one other play I do know where I want to see on the coach's film after the game what happened to the receiver, because Penn State did have a whoopsies in coverage where two guys covered the same guy, and then somebody ran free over the middle. Garrett Green didn't see it, and the ball was incomplete. So generally the corners are doing very good, and they're cycling through a lot of these guys like we thought they would. So that's happening. Jalen Reed, by the way, player of the game. And we're going to bring this up just in case we don't get to this later. And I apologize. We have a new sponsor here on the BWI Live show. This is usually for the postgame show, but I like to make people happy, and I like to give people a deal, which is why I was talking to you earlier about our deal on the website. Now we're going to get to our defensive player of the game, or defensive player of the first half, anyway. Super excited to bring this new feature to you. The defensive player of the game is brought to you by State College criminal defense attorney Michael McClenahan of McClenahan Law Firm. Matt McClenahan is a Penn State alum and Penn State football super fan who has been zealously representing his clients for over 2 decades. Very accessible. You can reach him nights and weekends. For more information, visit mattmlaw.com. And I think I called him Mike to start that. What in the world? Little pregame jitters for me. It's week 1 for everybody. Appreciate Matt for supporting the show, for being a part of us, and being a staple here on the BWI Live post-game show and halftime show for the game for the 2024 season. So we're going to be highlighting a defensive player of the game each week, and so far, you cannot go any farther than Jalen Reed. 8 tackles, 2 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass breakups, and a couple of missed tackles situationally that I don't necessarily think are his fault, but he has been everywhere. He has been third down stop guy. He has been pass breakups. His TFL, one of his TFLs was excellent, where he was run blitzing off the edge, wrapped around like a linebacker, and was able to get to the running back before he was able to get to the second level, because if he didn't, it was going to be a good chunk play. So Jalen Reed all over the field. The Lion is... I don't want to say it, guys. Don't make me say it. Okay, I'm going to say it. The Lion is roaring here in the first half, and please boo me in the comments for that. I was trying to think of something else, and it would not come out of my mouth other than that way. But KJ Winston, 8 tackles as well, 4 solo tackles, and 1 forced fumble. So elite superstar safeties. I would say even Zakee Wheatley had a couple really good run stops. He hasn't had as much to do because they can't throw the ball into his coverage. And, with those man coverages, let's talk about that play that should have been an interception. So when you run man coverage, one of the things you can do is you can run crossing routes or get 2 receivers to run in perpendicular motions to then hopefully rub one of the coverage defenders out of the play. And, run into each other, right? Everyone knows what a pick play is, rub route, pick play, whatever you want to call it. KJ Winston had to come over the top of the play where it was the big completion on the tipped pass. He was in position. He made a great play on the ball, and sometimes you just get unlucky. So Penn State doing a great job from that perspective with their coverage. Attacking these safeties are going to define the defense, and they are so far. And Tony Rojas, tackle and a half or loss. Now I'm just reading stats to you, which you can probably find, but I've been very impressed with the secondary. This is something I'm that can't be right. 51 total tackles. So here's the problem with tackles. I know all statistics are, if you want to go too far down the rabbit hole, all tackles, all stats are made up. But when you can just credit 2 people with a tackle and you just make that decision, and there's 51 tackles in this game so far, that caught me off guard. Anyway, Penn State's defense is doing a great job. They just need to get off the field. If they had played a little bit better on third down in a couple of these situations and gotten a little bit lucky, one of those stops they obviously had, and then they didn't get it in that situation, it would be a lights out game from them so far. Cameron Hornberger asks, is a BWI membership different from On3? No, it is not. We are owned by On3. That's our parent company. So if you subscribe to Blue White Illustrated, you're subscribing to On3, but you're subscribing to our site, which means you have access to the message board, to all the premium content. I believe you can read anything in the On3 network, although don't quote me, and also strike that from the record of the internet if I'm wrong. I know you can go onto other message boards and read other message boards, but you can't post there, so you don't have fans invading other message boards and making it a bad time for everybody. Eggman, yeah, this is what I love. Eggman says, I got my 50% off. I saw him on the message board the other day. We got a lot of regulars here that have come over from the YouTube channel and are now joining us on the site. Jay Thomas says, P. Chris 209D. I don't know if you're asking how he's doing, or if you're asking why the last name change. He did talk about that. I believe it's he's honoring somebody by changing his last name. I was not a part of the conversation where he said who that was, but I know that it was part of that, some male figure in his life, and I don't want to quote the wrong person, but he changed his name specifically for that. As for his football analysis, he's doing a good job. It's been a little bit hard. They've been rotating a lot up front. I'm seeing way more Alonzo Ford than I expected. He's been a big part of that out there. But as far as the defensive line, you want to get a rundown on that. Donovan J. Thomas has been doing very well up front. He got that stop that should have been a 4th down stop that they did not call that way. And he's been strong in the run game. They've been resetting the offensive line into the backfield when everyone plays straight up. But this is kind of the thing with the West Virginia offense is they have a better marriage of the quarterback, the run game, and everything that makes it easier for them to use their motions and their different pre-snap things that cause problems for the defense. It's more integrated. Penn State's still kind of working through how they can make all of this fit together. So that's been part of the analysis, I think, for the Penn State front seven and the defensive line is they've been doing a very good job of setting up the linebackers for success. But Elsdon, DeLuca, Rojas, they need to tighten some things up to reach that lights out status, right? To where they were last year. And we've seen this before where sometimes the gap discipline's a little sloppy to begin the season. Sometimes the tackling's a little sloppy. I don't think the tackling has been bad, especially from the safeties. Oh my God, did they come ready to play? But the linebackers, there's a little bit of the defensive line has been doing their job. I've been very impressed with Zane Durant so far. I want to give a shout out to Keziah Izzard on that play where Jalen Reed chased Garrett Green down in the out in the open field. If he's able to cut back, if Garrett Green's able to cut back, that's a very different play. But because Izzard got on his horse and ran as a 310-pound defensive tackle out with a quarterback who probably runs in the 4.6s or 4.5s, he forced the play wide, which allowed a good run angle from Jalen Reed, where he didn't get put in a situation where he's having to pursue the sideline and overruns the play because Green can cut back. Because if Green cut back, he was going to turn into turf. That was the scary situation if you decided to make that sort of decision. M. Shive is back. He says, what do they need to get Nick Singleton into the open? We haven't seen the whole playbook. So this is the thing is like, it's halftime. And I think they're trying in a lot of these situations to give him the football. But when you play option football, sometimes the defense makes the decision for you. So when Perbula keeps the ball, it's because they've decided that they're going to deny the sweep play, the outside handoff to Singleton. So Perbula keeps the ball. Or in a situation where they just have a straight run play and he's running up the middle. I know everyone wants to see him out in the pass pattern. They want to see him out on the edges. They haven't needed it just yet because the passing game has been working. So you don't need to do any of those things just yet, but it's coming. I do believe that they're going to get Nick Singleton with the ball in open space, but right now, as much as I say you don't need to establish the run to actually throw the football and use play action, you do need to have some success, and they're kind of working through the base run plays. And this is kind of my point is I feel like the run game is a work in progress from figuring out how to get it all operating in synchronicity. And you bring up a point I wanted to talk about. I like Andy Kotelnicki's offense. I think he does a great job of scheming up plays. We've seen it happen with some of the shifts and motions that have gotten big plays to Trey Wallace, especially over the middle of the field. That's the good stuff, where he's going to single his best receiver on a safety over the middle, and it's going to be a 55-yard touchdown. I didn't love the wildcat with Drew Aller in the slot or kind of like off to the edge of the box, that tackle ambiguous lining up. It was a false start on the play, if you remember. And the reason it's a false start is everyone heard the snap but the center, because Drew Aller is 7 yards away and he's still operating the snap. So Nick Singleton's under center and they're going off of a clap, right? On the road. The right tackle heard it. The left tackle heard it. But the player who was kind of in the fences of the guards and the tackles couldn't hear the snap, because it was coming from all the way back there where my wig is instead of like right here at the mic. So you can't, like, I thought that was, if you wanted to say too cute, that might have been a too cute sort of situation. By the way, I'm flying totally blind, so if they're about to start the game, we need to get back to the game. I don't think that's the situation. I don't want to go the whole halftime. I'm gonna run out of material because it could be a couple hours. So we're gonna be here for a little bit longer, answer some of your questions, take some of your thoughts, but we might have done play-by-play on every single play so far in the first half. Adam Johnson says, thanks for the halftime show to fill the time. Got to get Nick and Katron going in the second half. Yeah, I agree. I think generally that has been the missing piece. But as much as we're all coaches here on the internet, and I think some people get mad at me sometimes because I do that if I point out the mistakes, and I don't always, when you're reviewing film, you're going, why did this play work? Why did this play not work? And sometimes when you just focus on the details of, okay, this didn't work right, that's why this happened. And sometimes it's like, guys, let's just remember the good stuff. And I think that's fair. They need to get the running backs running, but your quarterback is playing like an all-star. And I don't think that's hyperbole. The catch and run to Trey Wallace was elite. And I even like the throw early in the game where I said they're a little bit not communicating perfectly. So there was one play where I don't know what the coverage was. It was bad. And there was a big wide open hole for Trey Wallace to run. He was running an out route. And the way Aller threw it, he was leading him upfield like it was supposed to be an out and up. And so he was trying to lead him into more yards because if you catch going upfield, it's better than catching going to the sideline. So he's trying to give him the opportunity for more yards after the catch. And Wallace was still just running an out route. So he's able to adjust, fall backwards, and catch the ball. But I think that was intentional. Aller's not whiffing in a specific way like that where it's on the frame, but it's way wide. Usually when he misses, it's low. It's in front. It's not that he's missing wildly left and right. It's usually that he doesn't have his feet underneath him and he's throwing at people's, he's throwing near ankles and knees is usually how he misses, or he's throwing high. He's never wildly the wrong way in his accuracy. So that was a decision to try and get him some more yards, and Wallace and him are still working through that chemistry between a wide receiver and a quarterback that, like when you get an elite duo in the NFL and they can just beat coverage because they share a brain. They seem like they're getting there. And that's exciting. Like, this is the stuff where I start to bounce up and down in my seat. Literally just did it. Where it's like, oh, that's really good. That's some next level stuff. We need to see more of it. We need to see Aller continue to do this, and not against a defense with a Big 12 game plan because they can't play man coverage. We need to see this stress tested, but that's always the situation, right? Like, that's the story of Penn State. They're really good, but are they good enough? And like all in the entire analysis of this situation, it's been Ohio State, Michigan. They don't even play Michigan this year, and I feel like we've talked about Michigan more than we have in a while. I think they're good enough, and this passing game has shown me things that you should be excited about this particular group at this point. Let's see. Brett says, my favorite play of the game went for 2 yards. Ioane in motion from the slot, getting ahead to start at the defensive end was awesome. Yeah, so like that's a great point where there's these great concepts in the run game. They're trying to do things to be explosive, but I also think there is a certain amount of West Virginia selling out to stop the run, and that's why you have these cover 3 holes where Penn State is able to knife into the secondary and create these explosive plays. So as much as they need to get those guys going in the second half, if they come out and start playing coverage, there is an opportunity where West Virginia is going to be giving a light box, and suddenly Penn State is able to run more successfully, and there's more space naturally because they're more afraid of Aller than they are of Singleton and Allen. And that is how this offense is going to reach its peak. Excuse me. Is if Aller presents this credible threat, and it's on film now, some of the things that you did last year, you can't do now with Andy Kotelnicki. So it's all set up for game, for games down the road, and for this to be a win for Penn State. But it is It's not great right now that they're at halftime with not a whole lot on the horizon as far as... I'm sorry, I was distracted by somebody who was asking me about the situation. They're like, hey, what are you seeing with the radar? Somebody texting me because I was worried that we were coming back live, and I don't want to miss any of the plays from the second half. And I'm not looking at the radar. You got to tell me what's going on. This from Andrew Berger. Thought Nick would run wide right behind Fleming and Warren. Now we are just kind of doing every single play at this point. The very first third down where they brought Bo Prabula onto the field was a great play, and that's what I think is important about having him into the play design, because they did. Nick ran behind Julian Fleming and Tyler Warren. I think it was Tyler Warren or it was Andrew Rappleyea, who were lead blocking on a speed option. You don't want Aller running a speed option. A speed option it's triple option football, right? So basically, the quarterback and the running back run to the sideline together, and you read a defender, and whatever that defender does, the quarterback then decides if he keeps the ball or pitches out to the running back. And, like if he goes wide, then he keeps it. If he stays, then he pitches it out to the running back. And so he made the right read, and Penn State was running this situation into a short field where they had two of their better blockers out there to basically get one-on-one for a first down conversion. So they did actually run behind Fleming and Warren, but it's not what you think. It's not what it looked like. They did try to get Singleton out on the edge, and they got a first down. It was a highly effective run, but it went for 4 or 5 yards. So the design and the implementation and the intentionality are all there with this particular offense and the run game. I also want to just say this. We came into this season saying that the running backs and the tight ends had to lead the passing attack. And I don't know, guys. Like, I know that the offense is different every single year, and maybe this game is just one individual situation. But right now, Trey Wallace has 5 catches for 117 yards, and Tyler Warren has 1 target for 7 yards. If you look at Andy Kotelnicki, what he likes to do, especially when you're going up against defenses like this, I bet when we go into the play level analysis later and we look at how many snaps they had in 11 personnel versus 12, which is 2 tight ends, and 11 is 3 receivers, they're predominantly 3 receivers right now. The receivers in this offense dominated at Kansas. They all had, I think, 50 or more targets. And then you had a tight end and a running back following up. And every year can be and will be different. But certain things are true. Wide receivers are more explosive in the passing game than anybody else. You can't have Trey Wallace not catch that pass for a touchdown. Like, he's not... Nick Singleton and Katron Allen aren't going to run that route the same way, most likely. They're not Christian McCaffrey, where they're truly a slot receiver running back. They can run a route, but one of the reasons that was a touchdown is it was such a convincing route from Trey Wallace that the middle field safety went the wrong way, and there was suddenly just open field for Wallace to run into. Receivers are explosive, tight ends are less explosive, and running backs are less explosive, generally in the hierarchy of offensive passing. Now, Singleton, as a unique athlete, to get him out in space and throw the ball to him, they will use all those players vertically down the field. But the primary focus, at least from what I saw watching him at Kansas, is getting the receivers the football. And so far, that has been the deal. And we're going to see how that happens. We're going to see how that happens in the second half. Assist Sports says, love the analysis. Regular broadcast, don't know Penn State. Appreciate you saying that. Appreciate you being here. That's a new one. I haven't seen you around before. Assist Sports, please consider joining us here. Subscribe to the channel and like the video if you're having a good time. Trying to do my best to give you all the things you want and give you some analysis of halftime, but I think I may have reached the bottom of the well here. Also, I don't have any water, and I'm starting to get cotton mouth, and I don't want to start... mealy mouthing into the mic because that's gross to listen to. So let me see. I'm just going to try and run through the chat really quickly and see if there's anybody else that's got any thoughts. I don't panic at all when there's silence, by the way. Just people being very nice. So I appreciate you guys. let's all reconvene after the game, because I don't know when that's going to be. I'm hoping it's not midnight when we're doing this again. I would love for that to not be the case. But it looks like, at the very least, that this game is going to go into a semi-prime time window. So good luck to you all in the second half, and come back for the BWI Live post-game show so we can put the second thought into this. We just talked about the first half for 45 minutes. So now we can talk about the second half for 45 minutes. And by the way, I kind of like this, because usually in the post-game show, I've got a whole bunch of thoughts that I've thought up, and then the second half happens, and honestly, the 2-minute drive, a lot of close games happen, and then it blows up everything I want to talk about anyway. So we got all the takes out, we got all the thoughts out for the first half. Come back for the second half analysis. We'll have that immediately, no more than 5 minutes after the postgame, after the final whistle of Penn State and West Virginia. We'll be back for that. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for the conversation. Talk to you then.